Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the St. Louis podcast. I'm your glorious host today, Eric Brown, president of iMedia and partner at Mogul Holdings. Today, we have Drewbie Wilson on the St. Louis podcast, and we're going to get into the weeds with him and his business. But before we do, this is a St. Louis podcast. Each and every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, we drop an episode on all major podcasting, audio, and video platforms. All right, like I said, Drewbie Wilson, father, best-selling author, sales consultant, mentor, and trainer. Also, author of Crushing the Day, Social Media Mastery, and Diary of a Damn Closer. And of course, what I know him from is Call the Damn Leads. So I'm excited to talk to you today because I feel like sales culture is changing where it's a lot of hoorah, hoorah, but it's a lot less people actually doing the work, which is where, Call the Damn Leads come in. You know what I mean? All of like the sales stuff online that I see is like, people, sitting in a room. I don't know why I'm getting hit with all of these, sales gurus that are, it's almost like they're fake talking to a room, but it's just them talking. And it just seems like it's a lot of hoorah, hoorah, but it's really no action. And I'm curious if a lot of these people are actually making money. Whereas a lot of the successful salespeople I know, number one, either are completely off of social media, and usually that's because they're a little bit older in the business world and they don't have to rely on that, or they're very successful on social media and you can tell by the type of content that they make because they're actually knowledgeable in what they do. So, first question is this. Out of all of the, salespeople out there, what is the one thing, if you could point out, if there's one thing that people are either not doing wrong, or something that they could implement immediately in order to help out and make more money?
Well, the cliche answer would be call the damn leads. Like
Yep.
that's the real truth is why we're here. Most people don't do that. But I'm going to go one step further and say that the number one mistake that I see right now in the world that someone could change today is they're not asking for referrals.
Mm. That is, yes. It's, what's interesting is it took a while to start getting referrals in our business. Probably after the first couple of years, we finally started getting referrals. But what's even more interesting is our main referral partners are our clients, right? And all it takes is you asking them and also telling them kind of what to look out for when they're talking to people, because those are the best referral partners 100% for us, because they're our biggest fans, our biggest cheerleaders, if you will. And they're also the best people to talk about how good of a company you are because you're currently working with them, right? So what is it with let's start with calling the leads. What is it with, and maybe it seems like it's more and more a thing of a generation, that people just don't want to pick up the phone. Salespeople continue to want to, I don't know, almost wait for people to come to them. And guess what? It's not going to happen. So why are people they're afraid of actually going out and doing that? Is it they're stagnant? What's the problem there?
I think the biggest issue is I'm 37, 37, I think.
Mhm.
You lose track after a certain point, but um I grew up right in that age where cell phones and immediate access to technology and information, like we were on the forefront of that. So we got used to just having ability to get this immediate information and access to it. I think as we've gotten older, as society has progressed, we got to a point where there was so much immediate information coming at us from so many different angles that we kind of had to put up some boundaries. And I mean, if you've been in sales for any length of time, over the last couple of years, the reason the FTC and so many of the
Mhm.
TCPA and all these compliances have come out is because people were literally just spamming nonstop all day. And so a lot of us, again, put up these boundaries to do not disturb. I don't answer a phone call if it's not programmed into my phone. We've created these roadblocks to protect ourselves from all of these spammy, obnoxious individuals. So inherently, like we've done it to ourselves as sales professionals by going too far. Now,
Mhm.
needless to say, that's not all of us are in that same boat, but I truly think that that's part of the hurdle the true professional has to overcome is that all of these boundaries we've literally personally created and use ourselves we are now flipping the script and asking someone else to lower those boundaries. So it's really important to come in with the right conversation and authenticity so that that connection and relationship can truly be authentic, because that's really what people are striving for. They don't want just some bozo that just spammed them out of nowhere, called them, or whatever.
Yep. So when you're cold calling someone, how do you differentiate yourself from everyone else? Because we cold call for marketing, and obviously ton of marketing companies. And kind of one thing that we almost do is we'll say essentially on the phone, hey, we'll give you a free performance review of and a free marketing plan, literally. We'll get into your current ads account, we'll audit that. We'll see room for improvement and things like that. Whereas I feel like most other marketing companies, and this really comes down to I think there's just a lot of people in sales and marketing that don't know shit about marketing, which is great for us. They're just saying, hey, your website, you can have improvements on your website and that's it, right? Things like that. So it does come down to being authentic because it's very easy now. We get phone calls all day long at Vi, and it's very easy to tell if someone right off the bat is either going to be potentially worth your time or not worth your time. So what do you think is something you can differentiate yourself and make sure that you're doing in, any industry that you're in?
First and foremost, I try to steer people away from cold calling, cold anything if
Mhm.
possible.
Sure.
That is very much an effective method. If you have a ton of energy and effort and
Mhm.
time to go and do it, it can work. And also, there are other ways of generating attention and growing your database, your clientele through attraction marketing. And to me, that's kind of where the referral side of things is so overlooked, is that referrals come with a much higher level of trust
Mhm.
versus if I just called you right now and was like, hey, Eric, congratulations. You have an amazing business and your podcast is freaking sweet. I can help you get 10,000 more podcast listeners a month for $1,000 a month. Click here to sign up now. You're going to go, okay,
Yeah.
where, what 10,000 people? What? I don't like, where, how does that benefit me in any form or fashion?
Correct.
Versus if I have an amazing show and you happen to have heard about it or you have seen my brand around over the last couple of years, and suddenly you pop up in my system and I call you and I go, hey, listen, man, I see that you've been engaging with our content. Maybe you placed an order or you downloaded one of our guides. I would love to know more about your situation and what made you decide to learn about this specific thing, because I just want to be here as a resource for you. And if I can help you, great. And if not, I probably have the person who has the answer to your problem. So let me ask you a couple quick questions and see if this makes sense to be a good fit for you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Then, we've gone through many progressions of trying to cold call, and it really seems like we finally figured it out after trying. I mean, we started building a cold calling team right during COVID, which
Mm.
was an interesting time. But we could get office space very cheap, so we just said, "Fuck it, we'll wing it and try it." And we've had many progressions throughout there that never really worked. But what we found out that kind of worked the best is instead of just calling, if you will, what we do is we have what's the system called? Whatever the software is called. We will we'll search for companies we know that we can hit. We'll get emails and phone numbers. We'll put them in the system. We'll start emailing them first, usually for, the first couple of weeks to a month. And we're just giving them information, right? Go to our Vi Media YouTube channel where we have Marketing Monday episodes every single Monday, where we have videos talking about anything to do with digital marketing, growing your business, and just giving free stuff. We're not asking for anything at first. But then what we do is if we see you opening that stuff, we'll call you, right? And then
Hmm.
we'll put you essentially into a drip system that we'll continue to send those emails out and we'll continue to call you. And those voicemails are also specifically usually targeted at what content they're opening as well. And it seems like it makes it a lot easier to at least have, even if they didn't open the email, just be like, hey, I know you've been getting a few emails from me about, whatever, Google Ads, generating leads and making sure your return on investment. Do you know this stuff, right? Are these metrics in place? Do you own your ad account? Things like that. And that allows us to really put our foot in the door versus just being another marketing agency calling them and being like, who the hell are you? No, I don't care. Versus being the guy that's like, hey, you've probably seen me. And if you haven't, here, go look at this email that you already have, or I'll send this back out to you. We have a ton of, YouTube content, things like that. And I even do that with referrals as well. When I go to, expos and things like that, I don't say, let's talk about what you're doing for your business and marketing unless they really ask for it. I'm like, go to the YouTube channel, look at what we're making, listen to what we're doing. And if you like what you hear, let's talk. Other than that, a lot of marketing agencies aren't really producing a lot of content, which I do think is interesting. And a lot of the ones that are
Well,
producing content are more focused on like the personal brand side versus the SEO, Google Ads, social media strategy for home service companies which is really what we do. So, and maybe there are, but a lot of them are focused on that personal branding side, at least from what I see.
I think there's two things that you brought up there that are really key for the listener to understand though. A, you are very much a value first
Hmm.
relationship builder. You said it yourself, hey, I just start sending them content that I know will help them wherever they are in their journey so that they can see me as an authority, as someone who maybe possibly could potentially know what the hell I'm talking about. And that's where so many people miss the mark on cold outreach, is that cold outreach is very much about warming someone up. You can't just take a block of ice and toss it in the fire and expect to be able to maintain the water from it and keep it in a glass. It's just going to steam up and disappear. Probably because they're mad that you're spamming them with a bunch of obnoxious shit that they don't care about,
Yep.
because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Hmm.
And I don't know who has that quote or where it came
That's
from. I
great.
swiped
Yeah.
it for sure. So I'm not taking credit for it, other than it's really powerful because from a cold outreach standpoint, it's all about warming that audience up to your product, to your service, to your offer, and to you being the actual authority in that specific space. Because, like you said, man, there's more than likely 100 other dumb idiot marketers that are just spamming a 10,000 emails a day,
Yep.
which can work. And also, it gets expensive, it's obnoxious, and it's a constant churn and burn. Because here's what I find so interesting: if a marketing company is struggling to find their own clients, how can they go and be a marketing company for a business? Like,
Yep.
wait a second, you're telling me that you're an expert at generating leads, but you can't generate your own leads? That doesn't make any sense to me. That means you're a great employee for someone else's business, and now you're trying to figure out how to take that skill you learned and like get rich from it. But the truth is, no, no, no. A true marketing professional, they can generate leads in any industry. Now, the caveat to that is when you niche down and you're very specific about the industries that you work in and the service that you offer, you can get much better results, because a general contractor can do a lot of general things, but you hire a guy who's an expert plumber for that specific purpose because he's the one that has the actual expertise. And I believe that same process applies to marketing. So I'll get off my soapbox for a second, but I just think
Yeah.
that's something to me that I've noticed that I've always found kind of strange.
And it's always the stuff that bites you in the ass, right? We, again, we've mainly, I mean, 90% of our clients are home service companies. It's always some of these one-off projects we do, they're like, can you update this stuff in a Wix website? It's like, we don't usually do this type of stuff, but sure. And those are always the projects that end up in the projects you're never making any money on in the first place anyways. And that's why we really niche down, because it's like, listen, we're good at home service companies. We're good at making sure that if someone's already looking for what they do, they're there. And then the step after that in our business, a couple years ago was, okay, great. We're very good at SEO and ads. and making sure if someone's looking now, let's start actually generating leads from people that aren't searching for them. So, we got back into social media advertising and really trying to generate leads that way. It's obviously a lot more tough and you spend usually more money, at least from a company perspective. But at the end of the day, if you're a large enough business, you can only spend so much. There's only so many people searching for shit, right? So
Yep.
you're eventually going to have to make sure that in your area that people know about your brand. And that's where, social media comes into play. So we really brought all of that stuff together and it makes sense for home service companies. When we go outside of that, it just creates a nightmare. And the other thing you said is, or maybe you didn't say, but I was going to take from is that the best clients are referrals. Anytime, I would say that we've probably had issues, let's just say with 5 clients paying over the 8 years of being in business. And every single one of those was from cold calling, messaging people on LinkedIn, things like that. Not one of those people was a referral. And it's always like, and it's always the same thing. It's like, hey, you guys did a great job. You kicked ass. And then when it comes to pay, the final invoice, that never gets paid. And it's very hard. And it always comes down to also, establishing that relationship with someone. I find it a lot easier, and that's why I try and go to like expos and things like that, because having a conversation in person versus pitching someone and having a relationship over Zoom is great, but actually shaking their hand and, having an in-person conversation with them, I feel like it's just something else, right? There's something inherent there that's like it makes it a lot harder to fuck that person over, if you will. So yeah, so I just find that interesting, and you're definitely right. Referrals are the best, not only for the fact of they're going to become your biggest cheerleaders. They pay the bills, um, and you're going to convert on a way higher percentage of those than just people, you're trying to reach out to and close. So if you're, going back to call the damn leads, what are like the three main takeaways of call the damn leads?
Three main takeaways for call the damn leads. One is, what is your time worth? Two would be, where are you spending your time and are you measuring it? Because the third would be, if you're not measuring where you're spending your most valuable assets, your time, energy, and effort, then you're probably getting a really shitty return on your investments. And anyone who's in any sort of sales, for the most part, has made a decision to be fiscally responsible for themselves, for their family, for the people that they care about. And to me, I think it's just, if you know that, why the heck aren't you investing your time, energy, and effort into the things that generate results? And that's where having a measurement, a KPI, a key performance indicator, for
Yep.
those of you oblivious to
Mm-hmm.
it,
Yep.
uh, those are the things that we track. So, how many calls did you make today? How many conversations did you have? And of those conversations, how many did you actually make them an offer to work together? Because, man, I've met a lot of people who are really great at networking, but they never ask for the sale,
Yep.
and they go broke because they spend all their time, energy, and effort on things, but they never follow up to the end, which is getting paid, signing on the dotted line, securing the bag, collecting the check, whatever you want to call it. Like, that's the stuff that people forget about. But I think most importantly, where are you spending your time? What are you spending it on? Who are you spending it with? And do you have a true measurement to get a result? Because calling the damn leads is just a mantra for doing the work, because it
Mm-hmm.
might be a phone call, it might be a text message, could be a DM, could be a smoke signal. It could literally be showing up in someone's office and being like, hey, man, listen, we've had 7 conversations about this marketing plan, and I'm not going to come back again. Either we get moving or we get grooving, because like you can't keep waiting and expecting the result. So what do you want to do? And again, I kind of like, I just get excited and passionate about this stuff. But to me, that's it. Set the process, trust the process, do the work.
What do you think most salespeople waste their time on? If they're looking at their time, return on investment for the time that they're doing, where do you see most people wasting their time doing? I see, for example, so I'll give you my thoughts real quick. I see a lot of people wasting time just on social media in general, and they're like, And the new form of almost in-person networking and wasting time is now being like, I'm commenting on these people's statuses, you know what I mean, and shit like that. And I'm like, that's fine and that's great, but what is that actually doing? You know what I mean? What is that actually doing? You're doing all of this work. What are you actually getting from it? I see so with that said, I see social media being the biggest time suck.
I would agree and disagree with you at the same time,
Okay.
in that I believe social media is one of the most powerful tools that a sales professional has at their fingertips.
Mhm.
The difference is intentionality. When you go on there, there's a lot of people who are using the it sounds good method of like, oh, I'm networking, I'm building relationships, I'm, engaging with other prospects. Like, okay, fantastic. Did you do that 100 times? And of those 100 times, how many actually turned into a DM conversation where you ask somebody, can I be the provider for this product or this service that I know you need because I've asked you all of the questions, I've pre qualified the business and determined you and me, we're a good fit to work together. And so now, like, I almost have to do this until you tell me no, or like I'm not falling within my moral code of like, if I know I can help somebody, I daggum got to do it
Yeah.
until they tell me they're not interested. And even then, got to be like, okay, well, even if you're not interested, who do you know that would be interested? Because it
Mhm.
might not be for you, but it's for someone, and you might know that someone. Would you be willing to introduce me to them? I literally just before this call had someone that was like, well, I'm not in a position, I'm not, financially able to do that, which I'm never going to push someone to spend their last dollar on something ever.
Yep.
Even if I know it can get them the thing that they want, because as soon as they spend it, they're not going to want to go do the work that's necessary. So,
Mhm.
like, that's one of my weird things. But point being, like, I asked her, I said, hey, even though it's not for you right now, there's someone who it's a great fit for, and who is that person, and would you be willing to introduce them? And she's like, well, you know what, actually I have a friend, he's been talking about finding a group like this, let me get in contact and make sure it's okay first. But yeah, fantastic. Don't just drop me cold into a relationship with someone that's not interested, but I'm sparking the conversation just by asking. And again, man, you asked me at the beginning, what's the mistake that people are making? They don't ask.
Mhm.
That's it.
It is amazing, the amount of people that can have conversations, but at the end of the day, they can't get the signature and they can't get the payment. And there's this thing that in sales, and I always found it odd. It's like there's closers and then there's not. But it's like if you're a sales professional, taking them through the entire sales process means that you are closing them in one facet or another. I never understood. It's like, okay, I guess you can have like appointment setters and they don't close, but are they realistically a full sales professional? I could argue no, I could argue yes. But I always think it's odd where it's like, yeah, I'm a sales professional, but I don't close. I've actually heard people say that before. And then I used to have a sales employee for a little bit, and I closed his first deal with him in the meeting, and he didn't like how I closed the deal. And I'm not aggressive by any means. I'm not aggressive. I'm not pushy, but I am like, if this makes sense for your business, then why are we not doing this? Right. And I was like, and he's like, I don't like the way you close. I'm like, we got the business, and guess what? It was a detailing company, and that significantly improved their business just from the little work that they did. So it was good. It was good for the business, and obviously it was good for us that we got that done. But I always just find that whole aspect of being a closer, not being a closer, being such a weird thing about sales. It's like if you're not a closer, are you really a salesperson?
Oh, and this is one that we could like go into the nuances of indefinitely, because I'm a believer that the best salespeople, they're servants.
Hmm.
They don't have to truly sell you on anything other than believing that they are the one to solve your problem. That's it. And for me personally, I'm not like the hardcore pushy like sales rah rah like
Yep.
I don't like that. It turns me off. I don't do business with people. Granted, I have been in a season of that in my past where I personally had to go through that and kind of step into the level of not being so passive in
Hmm.
certain situations, because there are times when I could look back on my sales career and see certain conversations where it's like, had I pushed that person a little bit harder, had I been a little more willing to step out of my comfort zone, could I have gotten them out of theirs and then into the role there or the life that they truly wanted? And so for me, like sometimes I take it personally, knowing that I could have done a better job and potentially help that person get to the thing that they truly want. And having not done that, I did them a disservice. So I really try to just lean in on like, let's make sure that we're building a relationship. Let's ask all the right questions. And then at the end of the day, if it's a good fit, why are we not doing it? Like you said, there's one of three objections.
Mm-hmm.
Money is number one.
Yep.
Hey man, I just don't have the money. Awesome. If you did, and we could find that money, would you 100% be willing to do this? Yes? Awesome. I know a couple of guys that have access to capital. Let's go talk to them and see what we can do. Because I'm a resource man.
Yep.
If it's not the money, it's a logistics and a timing thing. And this is one that I like to argue with sales guys a lot because they'll be like, we got to close right now. You got to close right now. But here's the deal, man. If I tell you I want a car in 90 days when my lease is up, I want a car in 90 days when my lease is up.
Yeah.
And that might just be the way that my mind operates. And you could sell me this 17 different ways from Sunday about this deal, that deal, whatever. But the truth is, if my mind is made up, pushing me farther isn't going to help. But you know what? The guy who says, cool, man, I'll call you in 90 days. Let's sell you a car.
Absolutely.
I'll go in and I'm going to pay whatever the price is at 90 days because that was my personal buying preference. So that is one where I think that timeline sales can be important. And that's a question you can ask early on, is kind of understanding, all right, where are you in your buying timeline? Is this something you want to do today or later on? And then lastly, because I said there's three, money is number one, time is number two, and number three is typically the I have to think about it.
Yeah.
And also the I need to speak to a decision maker, a spouse, a whoever, because it's them not being willing to commit to the decision because they're not confident yet.
Yep. They
And
need
again,
someone
that's
else
one
to
that
say
we can
yes.
nuance
Yeah.
100 different ways. However, I'd like to make major decisions with my spouse. So to me, it's always, hey man, if they're not on this call, I have to assume that you already discussed what the outcome would be, and that if it made sense, whether or not you guys were going to move forward with this. So tell me, with your wife, when you had that conversation, your spouse, business partner, whoever, if they knew for sure that this was the right fit, what did they tell you to do?
Exactly.
And a lot of times they're like, well, they told me to do it. And I'm like, so why are we waiting? What are we doing here? Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get to it. And then call them and tell them how excited we are.
Yeah, I will say the nice thing with doing B2B sales is we don't ever get I wouldn't say ever, but we don't really get the objection of spouse. Obviously, that's in the form of business partner, right?
Yep.
And if that's the case, it's always, does this person, yeah, exactly what you were saying. Does this person need to be in the meeting, or do they already know that this is happening, and essentially do you have the approval to move this thing forward? I do think it's interesting where you're like, the people that don't want to close now, a lot of the time, sure, maybe you can, and I wouldn't even say a lot of the time. Some of the time, maybe you can push them to close now. Now, the issue is that is most likely going to cause issues, maybe not now, but it's going to cause issues in the future, right? Because really you set yourself up for failure by already doing that. Now, I liked what you said is like, hey, follow up in 90 days. The issue I see is most salespeople don't use any sort of CRM. They aren't tracking shit. They tell me all the time, it's like, yeah, the contacts are in my phone or whatever. I'm like, do you understand that there are free CRMs? Free CRMs. I'm like, this doesn't have to cost anything. Use Google Sheets for Christ. And, and, and then if someone's like, follow up in 90 days, call them in 90 days, put something in there, follow them up in 90 days. Because guess what? 99% of the people that get that rejection of follow up in 90 days won't actually follow up. And
and most people are banking on that.
Yep.
You're going to forget.
Absolutely. Yeah. Follow up in 90 days. It's the best objection for someone that doesn't want to talk to them again, because more likely than not, they won't follow up.
Well, and I also love what you said about the CRM because yes, there are tons of free ones that exist. A Google Sheets will work just fine. Now, the caveat to that is don't let me find out that you're a business owner and you're
Mhm.
still using an at Gmail address.
I
That's going to cause so many headaches for me and we're going to have an issue. So I see that you feel the same way. So we're kindred spirits
the
on that.
first thing that we
Um,
do if they're using an at Gmail for their business, I'm like, "You cannot be doing this. You have a website. Use at whatever your website is." Like, come on.
Well, most people don't know that they can do that. And that's a whole other conversation for a 3 hour podcast that I'm sure you and I could go into about
Mhm.
helping clients make sure that just the basics are figured out.
Yeah.
And you know what, Eric? That's honestly what most people forget in their journey is they don't do the basics anymore and they've overcomplicated everything, which is why they're having such a hard time figuring out what's working, what's not working, because they got 96 different strings that they're pulling on
Mhm.
and they're watching some marionette little doll out there move around and they don't actually know what's happening with each string that they're pulling on because they've added 8 different types of marketing and there's no way to track was it the billboard that we spent $10,000 on or the marketing campaign of people who are calling 100 leads a day, or is it the fact that our guys are now just actually asking for the sale when they're in the home? We don't know. We're doing all of it, but we don't actually know because there's no process, there's no method of measurement, there's no simplification to say, you know what, we do it this way every single time, no variance, because this is what gets X result. It's predictable. That's what I love about
Yep.
marketing when you do it right is that,
Mhm.
hey man, if I know I can go and acquire a client for $36 today, and over the next 6 months, they're going to spend a minimum $90 lifetime value, then I'm basically printing money so long as I can carry from today until 6 months from now. But most people don't know that. They don't have that process. They're winging it
Yep.
96.66% of the time.
Well, it's amazing to me that even, we go in, we'll talk to it's almost the same problems that all companies have. You're making $1 million or you're making 50. A lot of the processes get overlooked. And when it comes to marketing, a lot of the time, they're not tracking stuff in order to be able to measure, did this come from Google Ads, like you were saying? Did this come from social media? And I will say that if you have an internal marketing person, you're using a marketing company, I mean, that's a huge red flag. That's something that every single month you should, or however often you want to do it, um, you should know specifically, especially with SEO and Google Ads and things like that. You can track those leads essentially to a T. So you're able to know what you're spending in order to acquire that lead. And then obviously you have whatever percentage that you close, and then you get your acquisition value. And I also see even some of the ones that, maybe they have it set up where you can see where the lead came from that doesn't actually get transferred over to their CRM. So then what we're dealing with is, okay, great, we got these leads in, but how did they actually work? Okay, the CRM doesn't actually have sources for where those leads came in from. So we know that the marketing is working, quotation marks, but we don't know how well, right? We just know,
Mm.
oh, now we're making more money, which is great. But realistically, we'd like to be able to see every single lead, how they came in, where they came from, and of course, did you actually have an opportunity to go out to their house, for example, send a proposal, and then close that client, right? And most companies don't have that stuff set up, and it's really not that difficult to set that stuff up. I just feel like most companies don't know, and then by the time you tell them, some of these companies are so big, you have to like integrate with so many different things. That's going to cause issues, right? Because now you have 5 different softwares all talking to each other. So yeah,
Mm.
it's amazing to me. Some of these companies, they're spending hundreds or millions of dollars, and they don't really know at the end of the day if it's working or not. They just know that the marketing is in quotation marks working, but they don't know from where. It's
They're being
astounding to
sold
me.
vanity metrics. That's what I see a lot is like
Hmm.
marketing companies are really great at selling you the vanity metrics of,
Hmm.
oh, we've grown our reach by 377,000%. And you're like, yeah, we went from 5 people to 17 people. Of course we grew that much, but like they don't say that part. They don't talk about like, okay, cool. We can actually statistically say that we spent $753.77, which brought in 11 leads. So we had a $7 or $77 cost per acquisition. And of those $77 leads, 5 of them actually bought our product or service. And we know that the average product or service is $5,000. So our 770 some dollars in spend turned into $25,000 in revenue. Here's the specific clients. Here's the things that they bought. Here's the breakdown. No, no, no. You're not getting that. You're getting the, hey, here's our dashboard that looks really pretty and has all these big percentages and big green numbers and all these things on it, but that ain't the truth.
Exactly. It's absolutely astounding.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance. If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a farmers insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis Podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE. Career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast. So I wanted to ask about Diary of a Damn Closer. So that goes hand in hand with Call the Damn Leads. Yep, there we go. So
That's it, baby.
We kind of talked beforehand about a lot of the issues of being a consultant or, whatever you're in, and you're really giving value back to a company, back to a person, whatever. The biggest issue comes into you're giving them essentially everything that they need to succeed, right? But at the end of the day, they're not actually putting in the work. So, or they don't know how to implement it, right? Or whatever have you. So tell me a little bit about Diary of a Damn Closer and how that can really kind of help and go hand in hand in with actually implementing those strategies.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking about that. I'm excited. I just launched it last week as of recording this here at the end of October. And it's exactly what you said. Knowledge is an amazing thing. And for anyone who's listening to a podcast like this, I mean, shout out to you because you're investing your time to learn something, to get better, to grow. So kudos. That's an amazing thing to do. The problem is knowledge is useless without application. And so Eric and I could sit here and spit $1 million ideas at you guys all morning long. And if you don't actually go and apply them, it probably isn't going to do you any good. And as someone who used to run the streets and get paid to make hand-to-hand sales and then, got out of that game and got into more legitimate sales and then got to a point where I literally get paid for how my mind works, solving problems for people, the biggest disconnect that I've seen is that actual application. Because again, I can give you the recipe for an amazing meal, but if I don't sit down with you and actually walk through and build it out with you together hand in hand, you're not going to understand the size of the slices that need to be in there and the breakdown of the granules and how there's so many of those little pieces. So the diary is designed to take all of the great knowledge that I've shared in my 4 books and break it down into a daily, tactical, applicable process. Because again, what gets measured gets improved. And I
Yep.
know that if you get a little bit of a motivation every morning and get excited, and you focus on your gratitude and the things in your life that you actually appreciate that you have now and didn't have before, and you're tracking the wins and the effort that you're putting in, it's crazy to me. And the other side of that is beyond motivation, which is cool, but isn't everything. It's the actual work. How many people every day could tell you how many reps they did when they went to the gym? I did 4 sets of 12 at 25 pounds of this and that. Like, those are the guys that are shredded. Those are the dudes, the ladies that they know everything about how to get the result. That's what the diary is for a salesperson. Every day, how many calls did I make? How many outbound attempts did I actually intentionally do? How many conversations did I have where I took the time to ask the questions, to build rapport, and to truly understand where that individual is and offer them my product or service? Because if I'm tracking those things and I'm measuring them, and I do 100 calls a day, 20 to 22 working days a month for 12 months, it's about 2,500 outbound attempts. And between you and I, Eric, I'm pretty sure that any sales professional who tracked themselves and measured 2,500 unique attempts at making a sale, they're going to make at least a couple.
Yep.
So that's what the diary is all about, giving you the tactical to go with the non-tangible of the ideas.
Sure. What do you think about a salesperson in an organization, commission only versus hourly or salary plus commission? Um, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's an ass for every seat.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are designed to be hunters and to just go out and be commission only closers, and they just have that drive. They don't need someone holding their hand and reminding them how to be successful every day. Now, the caveat to that is those dudes are kind of wild cards, and sometimes they get a little crazy and do things that it's like, well, I'm commission only, so you can't control me at the same level as someone who, maybe you're paying a small base plus commission. Well, hey, if I know I need someone that's going to sit in the office from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, whether or not they're making any money, I'm probably going to have to offset that with a little bit of a small base and then give them the opportunity for more by earning commissions on the sales and the service that goes along with that. So to me, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think there's an ask for every seat, and you just have to understand the individual. You have to understand your business, your margins, and ultimately your end goal of what you want to build as a business owner to figure out what's the right fit for you.
We found it to be easier to find good, just specifically appointment setters. For us, we found it to be good for especially, the younger generation, those in their 20s. They need something. So we found it a lot easier to train, to get someone in that position, to also be good at that position. And it's not a huge amount of money, right? We're talking maybe $15 an hour plus commission, which, it's a decent amount of cash. But
Sure.
you're not getting rich on $30,000 a year, right? You have to be able to perform, and that's not something realistically you'd ever want to make anyways. So you have to be able to perform in that role to get there. Because previously we had done, commission only roles, and a lot of it had to do with probably recruiting as well. Why, right? Now we actually have people that want to come work for us versus before it was just random people, a lot of people with absolutely no sales experience. And I feel like when it's almost like someone's just looking for a job. If you're just looking for a job and land in a sales role, you're probably not going to be successful because you have to be in sales. If really you're not even giving it 90%, you're probably not going to be successful. There's no such thing as a lazy, successful salesperson, right? You've never heard of them. And if you have, please introduce me because I would love to talk to them. But I've never heard of anyone that's, a super successful, lazy salesperson. It doesn't go hand in hand. And, I found it interesting that you said 100 calls, every single day for a year will give you whatever you said, a lot of calls. And you know what? It's almost like it's hard to we found it very hard to get someone to really understand, especially someone in their 20s, that like, hey, if you want to be successful, just say in marketing and sales, and you don't know anything about it, learning marketing through sales is one of the best avenues. I wouldn't say getting hired at our company doing SEO is going to teach you the most about marketing. when you're a salesperson, you have to know literally everything. And you don't have to be as good as obviously your director of Google Ads, or your director of SEO, but you do have to be well versed in that stuff, and you have to know what you're talking about. Otherwise you just won't be successful. So we always found that, yeah, paying a little bit, and then eventually, if they want to get off that plan and just go strictly commission only, and obviously we'd increase the commission percentage that they're getting on those deals. We're open for that. Um, do you ever see any more people still having like caps on commission? I'm just curious if you see that anymore, because I know that used
I
to be a
mean,
thing.
it's pretty few and far between. I think instead of putting a cap on commission, you see businesses shift the way that they send opportunity.
Hmm.
Like if they're trying to reduce how much a guy's getting paid, they're going to go, all right, well, we're going to start shifting more leads to these guys because we're trying to get their improvement up. But the truth is, like, at a certain level, they just don't want to keep paying you the levels of commissions that you're earning. And like, man, there's a whole nuance to when is the right time to find a new company, when is the right time to invest in new sales professionals and let a guy go. I can't speak to a whole lot of that because I only have so much experience on my side. And the biggest thing that I've learned is that when it comes time to bringing someone on,
Hmm.
culture and expectations are really, really important. And from the financial standpoint, I kind of look at like hiring and recruiting is like closing a sales deal. It's the same deal. You're just
Absolutely.
marketing to why the company is such a great place to work. And the financial aspect is where you start doing the negotiating because, hey, man, I want to be able to make as much money as possible. Awesome. Then I'll give you 100% commission. Every deal you bring me, I'll give you 25% of.
Hmm.
They're like, well, hold on, that doesn't seem like much. It's like, well, every deal we do on average is $10,000. So if you close it, you're going to make $2,500 a deal. How many deals do you need to close a month to be rich? It's
Exactly.
like, well, I don't know if I could close 10 deals a month. It's like, fair. Most of my guys on average get 3 to 5 deals a month. So I like that you're thinking about how much can you truly put out and produce. So let's break down what my guys see or what the best overall is. Typically when they get started, because there's a build up, there's a ramp up period, here's our offer. For the first 90 days, you get a $2,500 a month draw. And then anything you sell, you get X amount of commissions. After 90 days, because we've trained you, because we've poured into you, we've offered XYZ. Then, if you're still interested in going full commission, that's your option. The other option is this: we continue a small base, we give you a little less overall commission, but now these other benefits and things open up to you. Like,
Yeah.
again, there's no right way in particular, but I think it's all about setting those expectations and helping someone see, like, where does it go from here? Because most sales jobs, the guys burn out after 90 to 180 days because they've gotten to where they think they're supposed to be making money
Yep.
and it's still not coming in yet. So something's broken, either in your training and expectations, or they're just not doing the work calling the damn leads, which, hey, man, sorry, the KPIs and the metrics are there for a reason, because we know if you do this every day while you're here, these are the statistical results. But if you weren't doing that, it stands to make sense why you're not getting the results that were expected. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, hey, man, if I tell you to do 100 push-ups every day for a month, at the end of that month, your arms are going to be ripped. But if you did 25 or 50, or you skipped a couple of days, they're not going to be as ripped as they could have been. I'm sorry. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, 100%. I always, with the commission only and having a cap, I always found that interesting because we actually, one of our best salespeople that just actually moved on, he came from a company that screwed him over and didn't not only killed him on his cap, but also completely screwed him out of commission on a deal entirely that was worth, I think his cut was worth in the realm of like $20,000, give or take. And I'm like, I don't wish that those companies were still around, but I do like that they're still around, because guess what? Those good salespeople are going to move on from that business, because it makes absolutely no sense. Someone is making a sale for your business. Why would you not pay them for that? It's almost like, oh my God, now that we have to write such a big check to this employee, it's like, why don't we just keep this for ourselves, and be a greedy piece of shit
Well, man,
versus
and
just
there's
you could also versus having that person make another deal in the future.
the problem is it's not typically the business owner that has the issue with it. It's someone internally. So like I can speak from personal
Okay.
experience
Okay.
where in previous positions, I was a top earner.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are above you in the company, but earn less than you and have to stroke the check for 3 to 4 times what their paycheck is, they start to feel some sort of resentment for the fact that's like, oh, well, you're out gallivanting all day and you're never in the office and you do all these things and everybody loves this sales guy and like, screw him. He's clearly just, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like that has happened to me in more than one situation, unfortunately. And that is something that, again, why I said culture is such an important part of this process, because the people on your team can just as quickly destroy the morale as someone who's like, hey man, if he's selling a lot of stuff, like you said, so let's celebrate it. But if the guy's a dick and he's treating everybody in the office like a dick, well, then there's probably a lack of production from those people because
Mm-hmm.
he's not treating them well. So culture is going to be the ultimate test. And, I don't think it's right to cap someone's ability to earn. And also, I don't think anyone has earned the right to go in and run someone else's business. So that's,
So you're saying
the
it's
nuance
it's
there.
it's usually the sales managers. Got it. Interesting
Yeah, that's
perspective.
exactly right. Nobody likes the sales manager ever. Have you ever been a sales manager? I have.
I
I didn't
mean,
like it. I didn't like being that guy.
I lead the sales division at my company, so yes, that is sadly my role. And I wouldn't say sadly I love my role, but yes. Well, I guess the good thing is I'm also an owner, so then that makes it a little bit easier because I don't have those thoughts. I'm like, literally, I want to pay you as much as humanly possible, please. The more I can pay you, the more we're making. I don't give a shit.
And that's the difference, though, is like for you, you see the upper level of it, whereas others, they're capped because they've chosen to be in a position where this is what you earn based on your skill set.
Mhm.
And that's a hard thing within even in personal relationships for sales professionals. It's like, hey, man, you chose to get a job doing service and you make 60, 70, 80 grand a year. And like, that's the most you're ever going to make. And it's nothing personal, but as a sales guy, man, I might make 80 grand in a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that level up, that change is a hard conversation to have. And I think as people start progressing in their journey, that's one of those things as an owner, you probably are doing a great job of, is reminding them that, hey, when you start making more money, things in your life are going to start changing, and certain people are going to have relationship issues and certain conversations are going to come about. So let me lead you into being successful with it, because you've probably also, Eric, like me, seen a lot of guys come in and make a shitload of money and just completely go off the rails and just destroy way more than they ever built because they didn't have proper culture and proper leadership.
Yeah, we went through that at the beginning of last year, actually. Going back to we've said you've said expectations quite a bit today, but with employees, with clients, I think that's one of the best things to set. When it comes to a marketing company, you could promise the world, but when you don't provide it, they now hate you forever, and they'll tell absolutely every single soul to not use you. Whereas if you set expectations, you actually outline exactly what's going to happen. And with marketing, I'm always honest. I'm like, with Google Ads, we have clients similar to you. We know that, we should be successful in the city because we have other clients in different cities that do the same thing. But, results can vary. For some reason, maybe the cost per click or there's not as many people searching. It's going to be more costly to get that lead, or maybe it's going to take more time because there's a lot more competitors. So it's just going to take more time to get to where we want to be. But if you outline that stuff, someone will ride or die with you versus someone that's like, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Here's what we're going to get, and you only get X, and you only get half of what they said. It's great for us because we get those clients. But at the end of the day, the worst person to sell is someone that the first thing they say to me is, "I've been burned by 5 other marketing companies." It's like that. I already know that it's going to take a lot to get this person's trust, right? So, versus even if they're a referral, it doesn't even matter. It's like you have to treat them differently versus someone else that doesn't, that doesn't come off, that doesn't tell you that and isn't going to be upfront with you on that. So expectations, I always find, it's very easy to know a salesperson that's going to be honest or not. And really honesty is key, right? Even if we have an issue in our business, if we're having an issue with a client or something like that, tell them up front and tell them immediately. Uh, and tell them you're working on it, right? Versus having an issue, not telling them, and then bringing it up a month later saying we've been working on it, but it never got fixed, versus just being like, "Hey, we're having this issue for some reason, we're not meeting metrics or whatever." If you're a contractor, "Hey, we put a hole in your fucking ceiling or we fucked something up. We got you covered. We're gonna fix this. We're going to make it right." Um, so yeah, anyways.
Well, and I know we're coming up on time because we got, you're busy, I'm busy, and we want to be respectful of the listener. But you said something about I've been burned by other marketing companies. And I want to share this with you, and I want to share this with the listener who it doesn't really matter what industry. Hey, I've been burned by XYZ.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've been burned by a hot pocket, but I still enjoy them. My point is, what was the expectation when you decided to work with them? What did they promise you specifically, and what was it that they did not deliver on? Because all I need to do is be able to deliver on the thing that the other company couldn't do. Because if I fix that problem, that's what they're most mad about, is the specific thing that company did not deliver on that they promised they were going to deliver on. And it could be so small. It could just be they promised to send me a report every 2 weeks and they never sent my report.
Yep. You are 100% correct. Yeah, well, that's why we're always in contact with our clients. We always have monthly meetings with them. We schedule it. We have reoccurring. That way we can, we don't have to worry about a lot of that stuff. All right.
Yep, that's the goal, man.
That's the goal. So before we get out of here, tell the people where they can find you.
Best thing they can do is take this specific episode and share it on their social media platform of choice. Because if they enjoyed this episode and the value that we shared, it would be a big benefit to both myself and the host if you share this and tag us. Let other people know that this was a great investment of your most valuable asset, your time. So tag at Call the Damn Leads, then go to callthedamnleads.com. Check out our store. We have swag, keychains, wristbands, hats, books, all kinds of fun stuff. But more than anything, just know that if you're in sales, if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, like professional of any sort, and if we can help you spend more time calling the damn leads, closing the damn deals, and getting paid what you're worth, it would be worth your time to come and check us out after listening to the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think we had a great conversation today, Drewbie. So thank you for joining us. And as always, that's all the time we have for today. However, we will be back next week with a new episode, new guest. If you're watching live or later, please comment, subscribe. If you want to know something more about what we talked about today, leave it in the comments. Share it with someone that is going to find this valuable. And of course, as always, halfcoaststudios.com. This is where we are recording our podcast every single week. If you're in St. Louis and need a podcast recording studio or just need help with distribution, you can reach them at halfcoaststudios.com. And of course, the best damn marketing company on the planet, Vi Media. You can reach out to us at vi.media. You'll have the privilege of speaking to me. Thank you all. And once again, thanks, Drewbie, for joining us. That's all the time we have for today. We'll see everyone again next week. Thank you.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance. If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a farmer's insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis Podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE, career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast.